Assalamu alaikum. This is Huma Islam, your O-Levels Islamia teacher. Today's topic is Hazrat Abu Bakr Radhiyallahu anhu. He was the first Caliph. This topic is from paper 2, chapter 3. So the first Caliph, Abu Bakr, was born in 573 AD. He died on August 23rd in 634, 2 years after his caliphate began. And he is the only companion, in other words, the only Caliph that died a natural death. The rest of the three were all assassinated. And so you have to remember this, that it was Abu Bakr who died the natural death. Hazrat Abu Bakr was Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's closest companion and advisor. He succeeded to the Prophet's political and administrative functions, thereby initiating the office of the Caliph. Now, the election, it's a very controversial topic when it comes to between sects. When the Shia Sunni discuss the election, it's controversial. The Al-Shi opposed to the election of Hazrat Abu Bakr. Now, Abu Bakr secured his election as the first Caliph through a combination of personal reputation, key endorsements and swift action at a critical moment of crisis after Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's death. Urgency and crisis. Immediately after the Prophet's death in 632 CE, the Muslim community was divided on leadership. The Ansar, the helpers of Medina, gathered at Saqifa Banu Sa'd, it's called, Saqifa, to select a leader from amongst themselves. So the Ansar were about to select a leader from the Ansars, fearing that the Quraysh or the Muhajirs, the Meccan immigrants, might impose an outsider. They were thinking that, okay, because we belong to Medina, the Caliph, the successor, should be from Medina. They didn't want somebody from, an outsider or the Muhajirs to be the next Caliph. The successor, in fact. So election. So the election. Abu Bakr secured his election as the first Caliph through a combination of personal reputation, key endorsements, and swift action at critical moments of crisis after Prophet Muhammad's death. We've gone through this. Now, election. When news of this meeting reached the Muhajirs, important figures like Abu Bakr, Umar, and Abu Ubaidah quickly moved to the Saqifa gathering. They urged that leadership should remain with the Quraysh tribe, as the Prophet ﷺ belonged to that tribe, and most Arab tribes recognized its authority. So the Muhajir were claiming that the successor should be from the Qurayshi, and the Ansars were insisting that it should be from the Ansars. Abu Bakr advanced the case for the Quraysh leadership, but initially offered Umar and Ubaidah as candidate heirs. Election. Abu Bakr was the most worthy because he was the Prophet's closest friend and advisor. He had led prayers in Muhammad's absence. In other words, it is said that he had led 17 prayers. He gave the imamate of 70 prayers during the life of the Prophet ﷺ. He was the second of the two mentioned in the Quran during the migration. He had been trusted by the Prophet above others. In other words, he used to tell the Prophet, the Prophet used to tell him his secrets. Pledge of allegiance. Umar then dramatically pledged allegiance to Abu Bakr on the spot. He addressed the community with humility. Who addressed the community? Hazrat Abu Bakr addressed the community with humility, inviting correction and promising justice. There's a very famous quote of Hazrat Abu Bakr where he says, if I act against the Quran and Sunnah, then you must correct me, and if I act according to the Quran and Sunnah, then you must follow me, which further legitimized his leadership. Over the next weeks, almost the entire Muslim community pledged their allegiance, making Abu Bakr the first Caliph. Now, initial problems that Hazrat Abu Bakr faced were Usama's army, the Rida Wars, and false prophets. Now, Usama bin Zaid's army. Now, Usama bin Zaid was a 17-year-old. He was Zaid bin Haritha's son. Now, the Prophet had appointed Usama bin Zaid with a small band of army to go and fight, to go and take revenge for his father, Zaid bin Harith. because we all know that he was martyred in Motta. And when Osama bin Zaid's army was on the outskirts of Medina, they came to know about the illness of the Prophet ﷺ, and they stayed there to wait to see what's going to happen. And then at the passing away of the Prophet ﷺ, what happened was everybody started to debate that no, we're not going to send Osama, he's too young and he's inexperienced. And then Hazrat Abu Bakr said no, because he was appointed by Hazrat Muhammad ﷺ, I am going to send him. So there was a great hue and cry about this, the army leaving Medina or not. He managed to overcome it. A major challenge was uniting the Arab tribes. Many tried to leave Islam, claiming their allegiance ended with Muhammad's death. Because Arabs were used to tribal allegiances, in which their allegiance always used to be with a tribal leader. And once the tribal leader would die, when the tribe was handed to another leader, then the new pacts were made and so on. So they thought it was going to be the same with Islam also, but this was wrong. For Islam, allegiance was even after the Prophet's, they had to stick to their allegiance after the Prophet's death also. There was a widespread refusal to pay zakat, which is a mandatory charity. Leaders declared themselves false prophets. So, amongst the initial problems were false prophets. Abu Bakr firmly insisted that Islam was allegiance to the religion and not the Muslim community, not just the Prophet, and refusal to pay zakat would not be tolerated. They would say that no, we are not going to pay zakat to you. We're going to just keep it with ourselves, because that zakat that we used to give was just for the Prophet ﷺ. He faced political rebellion, notably the Ridda apostasy wars. Ridda wars means sometimes students get mixed up with the false prophets and the Ridda wars, or the apostasy wars. Apostatizing means to turn away from Islam, right? So we have three different, aspects of war. One was a war against the people who refused to pay zakat, but they claimed that they were Muslims. And then one war was against the false prophets. And then there was a war against those who apostatized, who turned away from Islam, who just reverted, where several tribes rebelled against central authority. Wars. Ridda wars, also known as the Wars of Apostasy, were a series of military campaigns launched by the first Rashidun Caliph Abu Bakr from 632 to 633 CE. These wars were fought against rebellious Arabian tribes, Ridda, because I've told you before that they were apostatizing, they were turning away from Islam, that renounced their allegiance to the nascent Islamic state after the death of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Some of these tribes declared new prophethood or refused to pay zakat, the obligatory alms tax, which were viewed as apostasy and rebellion against Islamic community. As some people claimed new prophets like Muselma. In Central Arabia, the strongest opposition came from Muselma, known as the Ark Liar, a self-proclaimed prophet with a large following. He was decisively defeated and killed in the Battle of Yamama. I'll give you a detail about the Battle of Yamama a few slides on. In Oman, the rebellious Azd tribe, led by Laqit, was defeated at the Battle of Dibba. Other significant opposing leaders included Tuleha and the Kinda tribe at Hadramaut. The campaign involved multiple armies led by notable commanders such as Khalid ibn al-Walid and Ikramah ibn Abi Jahl and many others. Which campaigns were these? These were against the people who were apostatizing. By mid-633 CE, Abu Bakr's forces had subdued all opposition, re-establishing the unity of Arabia under the Islamic Caliphate. The Ridda wars are significant for confirming Abu Bakr's authority, combating fragmentation after Muhammad's death, because if these wars wouldn't have taken place, then the Muslim Ummah would have been in different fragments, and demonstrating the military prowess of commanders like Khalid bin al-Walid. These wars ended the immediate internal threats to Islam and established the Caliphate control over the Arabian Peninsula. That's just to make the slide look fancy. Okay, wars. Now this is one. The Battle of Yamama is a very important war. That's why I'm discussing it separately. The Battle of Yamama was a pivotal conflict fought in December 632 CE. Musaylama had claimed prophethood and amassed a strong following, posing both political and religious threat to the unity of the Muslim community. In other words, Musaylama Kazzab had a huge following. He had many followers, and that was causing a political and religious threat. Abu Bakr dispatched a Muslim army under the control of the skilled general Khalid ibn al-Walid to confront him. Initially, another commander, Ikrimah ibn Abi Jahl, was ordered to keep Musaylama engaged, but not to start fighting until reinforcements arrived. The battle was fierce and costly, with heavy casualties amongst the Muslims, including many Quranic memorizers. The Hafaz were killed. Some accounts tell us about 70 Hafaz being killed. Some accounts say that 300 Hafaz were killed. The decisive turn came when Wahshi ibn Harb, the same warrior, you've heard this name before, it's the same warrior who had killed the Prophet's uncle Hamza at the Battle of Uhud, managed to kill Musaylama with a spear. This was followed by the defeat of Musaylama's forces, especially in a final brutal assault at a walled garden known the Garden of Death, where thousands of Musaylama's opponents were killed. It is said that in that garden, in that walled garden, all they could see was blood, so it's the Garden of Death or the Garden of Blood. The victory at Yamama was instrumental in preserving the unity and religious integrity of Islamic State and Caliphate. The significant loss of memorized Quranic knowledge in the battle, in other words, there was a significant loss of memorizers. Now, another important event in the life of Hazrat Abu Bakr is the compilation of the Quran. After the Battle of Yamama, I've got a spelling mistake there. Many Hufaz were martyred. Umar suggested its compilation. Suggestion of compilation was taken to the Majlis Shura. Zaid bin Thabit was given the task of compiling the Quran. So a 75 member committee was made, and he was the top of the committee. Strict rules for compilation were deducted, and people were ordered to bring different manuscripts to them and come with a written and verbal testament that they had written the text in front of the Prophet ﷺ, and these written texts were then compared with the memories. And now when the final compilation took place, verses were put into order. 114 portfolios were prepared based on surah names. It was initially called the that's just to make my presentation look cool. Discussion. Now, I want you to think about if you think the election was done right. Do you think he should have been elected, or do you think Hazrat Ali should have been elected? And do you think his, the way he acted and the way he dealt with the wars, with apostasy and the false prophets, do you think what he did was right? I want you to think about that. And then the compilation, do you think the compilation that took place was on the right time, with the right plan of action? Analysis. How did Abu Bakr's leadership style contribute to maintaining the unity of the Islamic State immediately after the death of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ? These are questions I'm asking you that you should think about and try to, outline. What were strategic, military and political challenges Abu Bakr faced during the Ridha Wars, and how did he overcome them? In what ways did Abu Bakr's appointment of commanders like Khalid bin al-Walid influence the success of military campaigns during his reign? How did Abu Bakr's suppression of apostasy tribes shape the religious and political landscape of early Islam? These are like the B-part questions that I've prepared for you. What role did Abu Bakr play in initiating the compilation of the Quran, and why was this significant for the Islamic community? How did Abu Bakr balance military action and diplomacy in consolidating control over the Arabian Peninsula? I'm leaving you with questions to think about. Thank you.